It was a quiet night on Earth. The hum of machinery and soft chatter of workers filled the command center of the Galactic Defense Network. The screens displayed a peaceful galaxy, with no signs of any immediate threat. The Alliance had enjoyed a long period of peace since the last great conflict had ended, and most commanders believed the galaxy was finally at rest. But in the distance, far beyond the reach of Earth's most advanced sensors, something was stirring. At first, it was just a faint signal, the kind of thing that most operators would overlook, a random fluctuation in the frequencies, a passing star sending an unexpected pulse. But then, the signal repeated. And it wasn't just random noise anymore. It had a pattern, a very clear and deliberate message. Commander Aria Kellen, who had been monitoring the vast array of data, was the first to notice. She squinted at her console as the message appeared on her screen. The first few lines were unreadable, filled with static and strange symbols. But towards the end, a single phrase appeared clearly. "The enemy is coming. The reckoning has begun." Her heart skipped a beat. The words sent a chill down her spine. She'd been through many encounters in her career, but nothing like this. This wasn't a message from a known enemy, nor was it anything from the peaceful species in the galaxy. There was something strange about it, something ominous. Aria quickly called over her superior officer, Admiral Lyra Voss, a seasoned commander with decades of experience. Lyra had led many successful campaigns, and her reputation was known throughout the galaxy. She arrived at the command center moments later, her face stern but calm. "What have you found, Commander Kellen?" Lyra asked, her voice steady as always. Aria pointed at the screen. "This signal, Admiral, it's coming from deep space, from a sector that's been uninhabited for as long as we've known. It's weak, but the message is clear." Lyra read the words on the screen. Her eyes narrowed, and she pressed a button to transmit the message to the Galactic Council. If this was a warning, it needed to be taken seriously. The room went silent as the message made its way through the vast network of communications. Aria's fingers tapped nervously on the console as they waited. Within minutes, a reply came through from the Galactic Council. "We've received the message," came the voice of Counselor Terran, an old ally of Lyra's. "It's strange. The sector it comes from is remote, barely explored, and certainly not known for any significant activity. You're instructed to investigate immediately." Lyra nodded. Though the decision was already made in her mind, there was no time to waste. She turned to Aria and said, "Prepare the Eagle fleet for departure. We're going to that sector." Aria's eyes widened. The Eagle fleet, the most powerful and respected fleet in the galaxy, had been retired for years after the last war. They were only ever called upon in times of dire need, and this situation certainly fit that description. "But Admiral, the fleet is—" "I know," Lyra interrupted, "but the message is a call. We need to be ready." Lyra moved quickly, her steps purposeful and full of determination. She had commanded the Eagle fleet before, and she knew how to rally her crew. She called in the key officers, beginning with Captain Kieran, her second in command, known for his brilliant mind and tactical genius. Together, they would prepare the fleet for a journey into the unknown. Within hours, the Eagle fleet was assembled, its ships ready for the mission. The fleet was a symbol of humanity's strength and resilience. Its ships were massive, equipped with advanced weapons, shields, and technology that could hold off even the most advanced alien forces. But there was something even more powerful about this fleet. It was a force of unity. Each ship, each officer, each crew member shared the same goal: to protect humanity and the galaxy from any threat that dared to rise. As the fleet prepared to depart, Admiral Lyra stood on the bridge of the lead ship, Eagle Command. The stars outside the windows were a quiet reminder of how vast and mysterious space could be. She looked out at the fleet, each ship in perfect formation, ready for the journey ahead. She took a deep breath and addressed her crew. "This is not just another mission," she said, her voice carrying across the comms. We don't know what we're walking into. But we have something that no one else has. We have the courage, the resolve, and the will to face any threat. The reckoning may be coming, but we will answer it together." The crew responded with a unified cheer, a strong reminder of what they stood for. Lyra knew that, no matter what awaited them, humanity was ready to face it head-on. The Eagle fleet would not back down. As the fleet made its way toward the unknown, the stars stretched out before them, dark and silent. But in the distance, the glimmer of something dangerous and powerful was waiting. The Eagle fleet wasn't just another group of ships. It was a symbol, a legacy of Earth's power and resilience in the galaxy. For decades, it had been humanity's shield, a fleet built on years of battles fought, and won on strategy and sacrifice. The fleet's formation began long before most of the current crew were born, at the height of the war with the alien Zaran Empire. The war had been brutal, and humanity's place in the galaxy had been threatened. But the Eagle fleet had been humanity's answer, a force that had turned the tide in those dark times. Admiral Lyra Voss was one of the few left who remembered the old days, when the fleet was young and untested. Back then, the Eagle fleet had been built from scratch. It was a mix of Earth's most powerful warships, the best pilots, and the sharpest minds in military strategy. Their ships were designed not just for power, but for agility, fast, sleek, and capable of taking on even the most advanced alien ships in the galaxy. At the heart of the fleet was the flagship Eagle Command. It was the largest and most advanced ship ever built by humanity, a symbol of Earth's technological prowess. It carried a crew of hundreds, all trained to work together as a single unit. On its decks, skilled engineers kept the engines running smoothly, while fighter pilots prepared their advanced ships for any engagement. Every member of the fleet knew their role, and every mission was planned with precision. Captain Kieran, Lyra's second-in-command, had served in the fleet since its earliest days. He was a brilliant strategist, known for his ability to turn even the most hopeless situation into a victory. Kieran had a natural talent for understanding how his enemies thought, and he often anticipated their moves before they made them. His insights had saved the fleet more times than anyone could count. Under his guidance, the Eagle fleet had become known as the most formidable military force in the galaxy. Then there was Lieutenant Maya, a specialist in alien technology and communications. Maya's expertise had been invaluable in countless encounters with alien species. She could decode transmissions from any race, and when the Eagle fleet encountered new technologies, Maya was always the first to study them, adapting them to humanity's advantage. Her knowledge made the fleet adaptable and unpredictable, an edge that had given the Eagle fleet the upper hand in many battles. The fleet had been retired after the final victory over the Zaran Empire, a war that left scars across the galaxy, but also marked the end of humanity's most intense period of conflict. For years, the Eagle fleet remained in standby mode, its ships mothballed in deep space docks, ready for action if the need ever arose. But peace had reigned for so long that most believed the fleet would never be called upon again. Lyra Voss had spent the last few years training new commanders and ensuring that the fleet's core values were passed down. She had trained under some of the greatest minds of her generation and had risen through the ranks to command the fleet. It had always been her greatest honor to lead the Eagle fleet, but it was a role she had hoped to never fully embrace again. War had left its mark on her, just as it had on every other member of the fleet. But she knew that in the event of a galaxy-wide crisis, it was the Eagle fleet that would answer the call. When the message came through, when the cryptic signal arrived with its warning, Lyra knew instantly what it meant. There was no longer time to wait. The galaxy was on the brink of something terrible, and only the Eagle fleet could stand in its way. The command center buzzed with activity as the officers of the fleet prepared for their mission. Lyra and Kieran worked together, reviewing battle strategies, ensuring that all ships were in perfect working order. Maya, too, was busy, scanning the message they had received for any clues that might reveal more about the mysterious enemy. "We're going into unknown space, Lyra said to Kieran as they worked side by side. "We don't know what we're going to find, but we can't afford to take any chances." Kieran nodded, his face serious. "I've never seen anything like this before, Admiral. But if anyone can take on whatever's out there, it's the Eagle fleet." Lyra's gaze drifted to the massive fleet that was now ready for departure. It was a collection of the finest ships humanity had ever built. Each ship was a marvel of technology, equipped with weapons and shields that could hold their own against any enemy. But it wasn't just the ships that made the fleet powerful, it was the crew. The people who made up the Eagle fleet had been through it all, and they had learned the most important lesson of all: unity. In the face of danger, they would stand together. In the face of the unknown, they would rely on each other. That was the strength of the Eagle fleet, their shared purpose and their commitment to protecting the galaxy. As the fleet's ships began to depart, Lyra stood on the bridge of Eagle Command, gazing out at the stars. The vastness of space stretched out before her, silent and full of mystery. She knew that whatever awaited them in the unknown sector, the Eagle fleet would meet it head-on, just as they had done countless times before. It was time for humanity to answer the call. The Eagle fleet had never been assembled so quickly. The vast ships, each a masterpiece of engineering, left their deep space docks and lined up in formation, ready to embark on a journey into unknown space. There was no turning back now. As the command center buzzed with activity, Admiral Lyra Voss stood at the center, directing the movement of her fleet. This was a moment of uncertainty, but also of unity. Humanity's best and brightest had gathered for a singular purpose: to protect the galaxy from a threat they barely understood. Lyra's mind raced as she reviewed the fleet's status. The ships, all powerful and capable, had been prepared for emergencies like this, but the real challenge lay in what they might face. No one knew exactly what awaited them in the distant sector. The message they had received was unlike anything they had encountered before, and the mention of reckoning sent a shiver through her bones. Whoever or whatever had sent the message was capable of causing unimaginable harm, and humanity had to be ready for anything. As the ships moved into formation, Lyra received a final update from her crew. Captain Kieran, always calm and sharp, was overseeing the fighter squadrons that would support the fleet on the front lines. The fighters were small, agile ships, quick enough to outmaneuver most enemies and armed with powerful weapons. The fleet's fighter pilots, known for their bravery and skill, were some of the best in the galaxy. "Everything's set, Admiral," Kieran's voice came over the comms. "We're ready for whatever comes next." "Good," Lyra replied, her voice steady. "Let's make sure we stay ahead of the unknown. It's not just about firepower, it's about outsmarting them." Lyra turned to Lieutenant Maya, who was already deep in her analysis of the mysterious signal. Maya's specialty was alien technology, and she had been poring over the message since it arrived. As one of the top experts in deciphering alien communications, Maya was a crucial asset to the fleet. She was determined to learn as much as possible about the threat they were heading toward. "Maya," Lyra said, "anything new on the signal?" Maya shook her head. "The signal's origin is still unclear, but I found something. It's not just a warning. There are patterns within the message, and they suggest something we haven't seen before. Whatever we're dealing with, it's ancient, older than any known species in this galaxy." Lyra's gaze hardened. She had suspected something like this, but hearing it confirmed made it even more real. An ancient enemy, possibly beyond anything they had faced before. This wasn't just a battle for Earth, it was a battle for the entire galaxy. This just got a lot more serious, Lyra muttered to herself. She turned to Maya. "Keep analyzing it. The more we know, the better we can prepare." "I'm on it," Maya replied, her focus unwavering. Meanwhile, the rest of the fleet's officers were busy making preparations. The engineers were ensuring that the ship's engines were fully functional, ready to engage at a moment's notice. Each crew member was double-checking their equipment, making sure that everything from the smallest tool to the most advanced weapon was in perfect working condition. The fleet's progress was steady as they traveled toward the unknown sector. It would take several days to reach their destination, and in the silence of deep space, there was time for contemplation. Lyra spent hours pacing the command deck of Eagle Command, her mind racing. The message they had received, cryptic, terrifying, lingered in her thoughts. The reckoning had begun. What did it mean? Who were they up against? As the fleet advanced, the officers gathered for their final briefing. Lyra stood at the front of the room, addressing her crew. The faces before her were filled with determination, but there was also a hint of concern. They all knew the stakes. This was not a mission like any other. "Everyone," Lyra began, "we don't know what awaits us, but we do know one thing. We are humanity's best hope." The Eagle fleet was built for moments like this. We've faced challenges before, and we've always come through. This time will be no different. Stay focused, stay sharp, and above all, stay united. Together, there's no enemy too strong for us. The room was filled with a quiet murmur of agreement. The crew knew Lyra was right. They were the Eagle fleet, and they had fought for the future of the galaxy before. They would do it again. As the briefing ended, Lyra stood at the window of Eagle Command, watching the stars pass by. The journey was far from over, and the real battle was still ahead. But she could feel the weight of her crew's resolve. They were ready. The fleet moved forward, its ships cutting through the darkness of space. Each ship was a symbol of humanity's strength, its will to survive, to protect, to conquer the unknown. And in the vastness of the galaxy, where countless threats lay hidden, the Eagle fleet was ready to face whatever came their way. No one could predict what would happen next, but one thing was certain. Humanity's greatest strength was not in its ships, its weapons, or its technology. It was in its people, their courage, their intelligence, and their ability to come together as one when it mattered most. And as the fleet ventured deeper into uncharted space, they knew that they were not just fighting for their survival. They were fighting for the future of every living being in the galaxy. The Eagle fleet had been traveling for days, their ships gliding through the quiet emptiness of space. Each member of the fleet had their role, and every task had been completed with precision. The fleet was a well-oiled machine, its engines humming steadily as the stars streaked by. Yet, despite the smooth journey, there was a sense of unease among the crew. No one knew what awaited them at the edge of the galaxy. Every quiet moment seemed to stretch out longer, as if the unknown had a weight of its own. Admiral Lyra Voss stood at the command center of Eagle Command, her hands clasped behind her back. She watched the displays, her gaze fixed on the distant coordinates. Every minute felt like an eternity. The silence of deep space was almost suffocating, but she knew better than to let her nerves show. The crew was counting on her to remain calm, to lead them through this uncertainty. "Admiral, we are entering the sector," Lieutenant Maya reported, her voice sharp but calm. "It's as quiet as expected, no signs of any ships or unusual activity." Lyra nodded but didn't respond immediately. She had expected this. Nothing ever showed up in the sector. It was a forgotten corner of space, the perfect place for something to hide. But there was no mistaking the signal they had received. Whoever or whatever had sent it was out there, waiting. Captain Kieran approached, his expression unreadable. "I've assigned the fighter squadrons to patrol the outer perimeter," he said. "They'll be on the lookout for anything out of place." "Good," Lyra replied, her voice steady. "We need to be prepared for anything. If we're walking into a trap, we can't afford to be caught off guard." Just then, the communications officer spoke up. "Admiral, we're receiving a new signal. It's coming from just ahead. It's weak, but it's definitely not random noise." Lyra's heart skipped a beat. This was it. The source of the message they had received, what they had been heading toward all along. She stepped forward, her eyes narrowing as she studied the data on the screen. "Can you identify the source?" she asked. Maya worked quickly, typing commands into her console. I'm tracing it now. It's coming from a nearby planet, hidden behind a nebula. It's almost as if someone was trying to keep it secret. Lyra's mind raced. A hidden planet. Why would anyone want to hide a planet here? The sector was remote, far from any major space lanes. It was a place most explorers avoided, but it was not without its mysteries. Get us closer, Lyra ordered. We need to see what's on that planet. As Eagle Command moved forward, the fleet followed closely behind, each ship in perfect formation. The planet came into view, its surface shrouded by thick clouds. From a distance, it looked like a barren world, but there was something strange about it. A faint glow around the atmosphere, almost as if the planet was alive. The fleet slowed as they neared the planet's orbit. Lyra couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. She glanced at the tactical displays. Everything seemed normal, but there was a strange energy in the air, a sense of tension that the crew could not ignore. "Captain," Lyra said, her voice low but firm, "I want the fighters ready to launch immediately. We don't know what's waiting for us down there." Kieran nodded, already relaying the order to the fighter pilots. The crew was prepared for the worst, but there was still no knowing what they would find. As the fleet entered the planet's orbit, Maya continued scanning the surface. Her fingers flew over the controls, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Admiral, I'm detecting signs of structures on the surface. Large, metal, and unlike anything we've seen before. They're ancient." Lyra's eyes narrowed. Ancient structures. That changed everything. She had suspected they were dealing with something old, something beyond current technology. But this was confirmation. "Can you tell what they're made of?" Lyra asked, her tone serious. Maya hesitated for a moment. "It's hard to say. The material isn't like any metal we've encountered. It seems to have properties that shield it from our scanners, but there's no doubt it's artificial." "This is getting more complicated by the minute," Lyra muttered under her breath. She knew that whatever was on this planet could hold the answers to the message they had received. But the more she learned, the more questions came up. Who built these structures? And why were they hidden away in such a remote part of the galaxy? "Captain Kieran," Lyra said, turning to her second-in-command. "Prepare a small team to land. We need to investigate these structures." Kieran's face was set in determination. "Understood. We'll be ready." Lyra turned back to the viewport, gazing at the planet before them. The unknown stretched out, waiting for them to uncover its secrets. Every decision from here on would matter. They could not afford to make a mistake. Whatever force had sent the message, whatever was lurking on this forgotten world, they had to face it head-on. The first landing team suited up and boarded their ships, ready to make their way to the surface. Lyra watched as the small transport ships launched from the fleet, cutting through the atmosphere toward the planet below. It was time to uncover the truth. The small landing team descended through the thick clouds, the planet's surface slowly becoming visible as their ships cut through the atmosphere. The sky was a strange mix of deep oranges and reds, casting an eerie glow over the landscape below. It was a world unlike anything they had seen before, unspoiled, yet somehow unnatural. The vast surface was mostly rocky plains, with patches of dense forest scattered here and there, but the structures Maya had detected stood out, rising from the ground like forgotten giants. Admiral Lyra Voss stood in the command center aboard Eagle Command, watching the live feeds from the landing team's ships. The team was led by Captain Kieran, who was known for his calm demeanor under pressure. His experience and leadership would be crucial in navigating this unknown world. "I've never seen anything like this." Captain Kieran's voice crackled over the comms as the landing team's transport ships touched down gently on the surface. "These structures are massive, but they're decaying. Some parts seem to be centuries old, others look like they were built more recently." Lyra felt a shiver of unease. Decaying structures meant no one had been around for a long time, or perhaps they had been abandoned. Either way, it raised more questions than answers. What had caused this planet's builders to leave? And why was this place left in such isolation? Understood, Captain. Proceed with caution, Lyra replied. We need to know who built these structures and what their purpose is. The team disembarked, their boots crunching against the rocky ground. The planet's gravity was slightly weaker than Earth's, which made movement feel strangely light. They moved in formation, scanning the area for any signs of life or danger. Each member of the team was equipped with advanced sensors and tools to analyze the surroundings, but so far, nothing seemed to pose an immediate threat. The first structure they came across was unlike any human-made building. Towering walls of strange metal stretched high into the sky, covered in mysterious symbols and carvings that no one on the team could immediately recognize. The metal seemed to shimmer faintly, as if it was alive. It was clear that this place had been constructed by a civilization with technology far beyond what humanity had ever known. It's incredible, Maya said, her voice filled with awe as she joined the landing team, her eyes scanning the symbols on the walls. These markings, this isn't like anything I've studied before. It's not even close to any known alien language. Can you make any sense of it? Kieran asked, his tone steady but curious. I think so, Maya replied, her hands moving over a small device that could translate alien languages. I'll need more time to decode it, but I believe the message these symbols are conveying is a warning. Something about an ancient power, something to be avoided. Lyra's thoughts raced. An ancient power. Was this what they had been heading toward? Something far older than any known species. Could this be the true source of the signal? Stay focused, Lyra said, her voice crackling through the comms to the team. Keep gathering data, but don't take any risks. We need more answers, and we need to make sure we're safe. As the team moved deeper into the structure, the walls grew even more intricate, with spirals and designs that seemed to pulse faintly. It was as though the place was alive, or that it once had been. The deeper they went, the stronger the sense of something forgotten, seemed to reach out. There was no turning back now. Suddenly, the team came upon a large open chamber. In the center stood a massive pedestal, covered in more of the strange symbols. Upon it rested an object, its shape hard to make out due to the faint glow surrounding it. It was a relic, an artifact far older than anything humanity had ever encountered. As the team gathered around, Maya approached the pedestal carefully, her scanner working overtime to analyze the object. What do you think it is? Kieran asked, his voice a mix of curiosity and caution. I'm not sure, Maya said, taking a slow step forward. But it's giving off a strange energy. It's unlike anything we've studied before. I think this is the source of the message we received. Her words hung in the air. The object was the key to everything, the link between the ancient civilization and the mysterious signal they had followed all this way. Whatever this artifact was, it had the power to change everything. Should we touch it? One of the team members asked, eyeing the artifact with caution. We don't know what it could do, Maya said, but the temptation to learn more was clear in her voice. But I think we need to. Lyra's voice came through, stern and commanding. Maya, be careful. We don't know what we're dealing with. Proceed slowly. Maya nodded, her heart racing as she reached out to touch the object. The moment her hand made contact, a wave of energy rippled through the room. The entire structure seemed to hum, as if awakening after centuries of silence. For a split second, the team froze in shock. Something was happening, but no one knew exactly what. Then, a deep voice, ancient and unintelligible, echoed through the chamber. The sound was deafening, resonating within the walls, the air, even their bones. It was as though the planet itself was speaking to them. Lyra's heart pounded as she watched the feed from the landing team's suits. This was the moment. Whatever secrets lay hidden in this forgotten world, they were about to be revealed. The moment Maya's hand made contact with the artifact, the entire chamber seemed to come alive. The air around them hummed with an unfamiliar energy, a force that vibrated deep in their chests. The strange voice that echoed through the room seemed to resonate from the very walls, like a warning or a plea. The team members exchanged nervous glances, their weapons still holstered, but their hands twitching with the instinct to protect themselves. "Maya, what did you do?" Captain Kieran asked, his voice tense. I didn't mean to activate it," Maya stammered, stepping back from the pedestal. "But this energy, it's unlike anything I've ever encountered." The voice continued, its words unintelligible, but it was clear that whatever was happening, it was something important. The artifact glowed brighter with each passing second, the light casting long shadows across the chamber. For a moment, everything seemed to freeze. Then, as if in response to the presence of the landing team, the voice stopped. Silence filled the room once more, but it was a heavy, oppressive silence. Lyra's voice crackled over the comms, firm but reassuring. "Maya, are you all right?" Lyra asked. "I'm fine," Maya replied, her voice shaky. "But whatever this is, it's powerful. The artifact. It's not just a message. It's alive, somehow." "We need answers," Lyra said. "Do not make any more moves without backup. Get out of there and return to the ship." Before Maya could respond, the ground beneath their feet began to shake. It was subtle at first, like a faint tremor, but it quickly grew stronger. The team members steadied themselves, gripping the walls for support. Kieran looked around, his eyes wide with caution. "Get to the ships." "Now," Kieran ordered, his voice sharp. He turned to Maya, who was still staring at the artifact, the glow from it reflecting in her wide eyes. "Maya, move." But Maya was frozen. She couldn't take her eyes off the object. It was as if the artifact was calling to her, pulling her in. The air was thick with tension, and something inside her told her to stay. The team's warning calls seemed distant now, as if they were coming from far away. "Maya," Kieran shouted, his voice snapping her out of her trance. "Now." With a start, Maya broke away from the pedestal, her legs trembling. She ran toward the exit with the others. But just as they reached the doorway, the chamber trembled once more, this time with far more force. The ground cracked beneath them, and they heard a loud, deep rumble, as if something ancient was stirring beneath the planet's surface. The team burst into the open air, gasping for breath. The sky above had darkened, the strange orange-red hue deepening into a stormy black. In the distance, dark clouds were swirling around the towering structures, as if the planet itself had awakened. Something was wrong. Something had been triggered by the artifact's activation, and they were at the center of it all. Kieran quickly rounded up the team, ensuring they were all accounted for. The transport ships were still waiting in the distance, but the ground continued to shake beneath them, making every step feel like a challenge. "We need to move fast," Kieran said, his voice urgent. "Get to the ships. We don't know what's happening, but it's not safe here anymore." The team sprinted toward the transport ships, the rumbling of the ground getting louder and louder with each passing second. The planet seemed to be responding to their presence, as if it were alive, reacting to the activation of the artifact. The structures in the distance were no longer silent, their outlines shifting, changing, as though they were coming to life. Just as they reached the ships, a loud crack echoed through the air. The ground in front of them split open, revealing the deep, glowing fissure. The energy radiating from the crack felt like a wave of heat, sending a shiver through the entire team. "Everyone, move," Kieran yelled, as the team scrambled aboard the transport ships. The engines roared to life, lifting them off the ground just as the fissure began to widen, sending shockwaves through the landscape. The sky above them was darkening further, clouds swirling violently, as if the very planet was being torn apart. As the ships rose into the air, the team looked down at the surface below. The once stable ground was now fractured, as if the planet itself was awakening from a long slumber. The structures in the distance seemed to pulse, their energy resonating with the chaos unfolding. "What's happening?" Maya gasped, still trying to catch her breath. "I don't know," Kieran replied, his voice grim. "But whatever we triggered down there, it's changing this planet. We need to get back to the fleet and report in." The transport ships flew quickly, the engines firing at full power as they made their way back to the Eagle fleet. The ship's viewports gave them a clear view of the destruction unfolding below. The surface of the planet was shifting, cracks opening wide, while the strange energy from the artifact seemed to be spreading. Once back aboard Eagle Command, Lyra was waiting for them. She had been monitoring the situation from the ship, and the moment they landed, she was on the comms, ready to hear the report. "What happened?" Lyra asked, her voice sharp but calm. "We've activated something," Kieran said, his eyes dark with concern. "Something ancient. The planet's reacting, changing, maybe even awakening. The artifact is connected to all of it." Lyra's gaze hardened as she processed the information. She had suspected something like this, but seeing it unfold— "We need to prepare for whatever comes next," Lyra said, her voice firm. "We've triggered something, and now we need to figure out what it wants." The Eagle fleet hovered in orbit around the planet, its ships poised and ready for whatever came next. Lyra stood in the command center, her eyes focused on the planet below. The ground had stopped shaking, but the sense of tension in the air was palpable. They had triggered something powerful and ancient. The question was, what would it do now? "Admiral," Lieutenant Maya said, her voice breaking the silence. "I've been running scans. The energy from the planet is still growing. It's not just the artifact anymore. The entire planet seems to be resonating, like it's alive." Lyra nodded. She had expected this. The planet's reaction to the artifact had been immediate and overwhelming. It wasn't just a matter of examining it now. They needed to understand it before it escalated any further. "We need to figure out who built those structures," Lyra said, "and why they left. The more we know, the better our chances of controlling the situation." Kieran stepped forward, his face hard with determination. "We can send another team down to the surface. We need to find answers, and we need to do it quickly." Lyra looked at him for a moment, weighing her options. The danger wasn't gone, but the team had made it back safely. It wasn't ideal to send more people down, but it seemed like the only choice. "Get your team ready," she said. "We'll try to get more intel on the artifact and the planet. But I want to know what's going on down there before we make any more decisions." The landing team was quickly assembled once more, ready to return to the planet's surface. This time, however, they would be more cautious. With the unknown energies now flooding the atmosphere, they couldn't afford to take any chances. As the transport ships descended again, the planet below seemed eerily calm. The dark clouds that had swirled violently earlier had parted, leaving a quiet sky behind. But Lyra knew better than to trust the calm. It was only a pause, a brief moment of peace before the storm. "We're landing in the same area as before," Captain Kieran said over the comms. "Everyone stay sharp. Keep your eyes open for anything unusual." The ships touched down without incident, the ground stable beneath them. The team disembarked cautiously, weapons at the ready but holstered for now. The strange energy in the air still buzzed, but it was less intense than it had been during their last trip. "Stay in formation," Kieran commanded, his voice steady. "We're headed to the artifact chamber. I want to see if there's anything we missed last time." They made their way back through the rocky landscape, the ruins of the ancient structures looming over them like silent sentinels. The symbols on the walls still pulsed faintly, but now they seemed to be guiding them rather than warning them. It was as if the planet itself was acknowledging their presence, welcoming them into its secrets. As they approached the artifact chamber once more, Maya's scanner beeped urgently. She paused, looking at her device. "There's something different," she said, her voice tense. "The energy readings are off the charts. The artifact, it's changing." Karen's eyes widened as he stepped forward. What do you mean, changing? It's like it's evolving, Maya replied. The patterns on the surface, they're shifting, almost like they're alive. The team gathered around the pedestal again, and sure enough, the artifact had changed. The markings had grown clearer, and the energy it radiated seemed stronger, more focused. The glow was no longer faint. It was a steady, pulsing light, as if it was waiting for something. I don't like this, Karen muttered, taking a step back. We don't know what it's capable of. But Maya stepped forward, her eyes locked on the object. We have to understand it. We're so close. This artifact, it could hold the answers to everything we've been searching for. Her hand hovered over the pedestal once more, but Karen grabbed her wrist, stopping her. No, we don't know what will happen if you touch it again, he said firmly. Maya looked at him, frustration flickering in her eyes. We've already come this far. The artifact wants us to do something. It's showing us the way. Before Karen could respond, a deep rumble echoed from the planet's surface, louder than before. The ground began to shake once more, and this time, it was stronger, more violent. The team was thrown off balance as the earth trembled beneath them. Get to the ships, Karen shouted, his voice urgent. The transport ships were only a short distance away, but the ground was cracking open around them. The very planet was tearing itself apart. The team sprinted for the ships, their boots pounding against the uneven ground as the shaking intensified. As they neared the transport ships, the sky above them darkened once more. Lightning streaked through the clouds, and the wind howled with an unnatural force. It was as if the planet itself was rejecting their presence. The transport ships roared to life, lifting off the ground as the planet's surface shattered below them. As the team ascended into the sky, they looked down at the chaos unfolding on the planet. The ground split wide open, revealing bright fissures that glowed with the same energy as the artifact. We have to leave, Kieran said, his voice grim. It's too dangerous. We've stirred something we don't understand. Back aboard the Eagle Command, Lyra was waiting for them. Her eyes were fixed on the data streams from the planet below, but the expression on her face was one of concern. Report, Lyra said as the team boarded the ship. We've activated something, Kieran said quietly, his tone heavy with regret. The planet's reacting. We need to get away from it before it's too late. Lyra nodded, her mind already working. The unknown had turned into a threat, one that they weren't prepared for, but she wasn't going to give up yet. We'll regroup and figure out our next steps, Lyra said, her voice determined. This isn't over. Not yet. As the fleet pulled away from the planet, Lyra couldn't shake the feeling that they had just uncovered the beginning of something far bigger than they had imagined. The artifact, the planet. It was only the start of a much deeper mystery. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together.